On the basis of waveform, there are various types of classification. Let's see about active and passive elements. Active elements are the elements which are capable of delivering power to the external circuit or external device that present in the circuits. Active elements are the element capable of delivering power to external circuit. Active elements are capable of delivering power to external devices that present in the circuit. Normally, energy sources like voltage source and current source are termed to be as an active element. Voltage source and current source are termed to be as an active element, since it supplies energy to the elements that present in the electrical circuits. So, it is termed as an active element. And we can also define an active element by the components that can change the waveform of the electrical energy are termed to be as an active element. The other definition of an active element is components or element that can change the waveform of electrical energy are termed to be as an active element. Waveform of electrical energy are termed to be as a active element. For example, if you take a diode, if you are giving a supply to the diode as a sinusoidal waveform, the sinusoidal waveform will be converted into a rectified waveform from one side. Rectified waveform for one side. Right? Rectified waveform. It is not same as the input. Input is sinusoidal, the output is a rectified output for the diode. The waveform of the input energy has been changed. So, this element is termed to be as a active element. Rectified waveform. So, the element that changes the waveform of the electrical energy are termed to be as an active element. Examples of active elements are all semiconductor devices like diode, transistors, and most of the semiconductor devices are active elements in that changes the input waveform to other waveform, that changes the shape of the input waveforms. An element that changes the waveform of an electrical energy, then that element is termed to be as an active element. And the other parameter that can define active element is active elements are the element that is capable of delivering average power to the external circuits for an infinite amount of time. The time period can be infinite. Active element will be capable of delivering average power. Active element is capable of delivering average power to the circuit for an infinite amount of time. The graph of the active element. We can represent the active element by using a graph. The graph of the active element would be of second and the fourth quadrant. If the graph contains in the second and the fourth quadrant, the component is said to be of the active element. Okay, the active element will represent the graph in second and the fourth quadrant. If the element represents the graph in second and fourth quadrant, then that element is termed to be as an active element. Now let's see about the passive element. Passive element are the element that consumes or that stores the electrical energy and it will not supply the electrical energy to the other elements present in the circuit. Thus, the elements just consumes energy or stores energy into it. Those elements are termed to be as a passive elements. Okay, and also we can define or term a passive element by using the waveform strategy. If the shape of the electrical energy is not changed after the electrical energy has been passed through the element, then that element is termed to be as a passive element. Okay, we can define the passive elements in two ways. Passive elements are the elements that consumes electrical energy or stores electrical energy. Consumes or stores electrical energy into it. It is not capable of delivering power. It is not capable of delivering average power. Whereas in the case of active element will be capable of delivering average power, where passive element is not capable of delivering average power. It just consumes power, consumes energy and power into it. And based on the waveform, if the waveform of the electrical energy is not changed, then that element is termed to be as a passive element. These elements can't change the waveform of electrical energy. Electrical energy waveform would be same as the before. Assume resistor R, if you are supplying a AC voltage, after passing through this, the waveform will be still remain same. The waveform of the shape of the waveform would not change. Either the magnitude may vary, but the shape of the waveform would be same only, will be same. Those elements are termed to be as a passive element. Examples of passive elements are resistor, inductor and capacitor. Resistor, inductor and capacitor, those are the elements in which the shape of the electrical energy would not change after passing through it. Inductor and capacitor stores energy into it but delivers after some time, some period of time. These are the examples of the passive element. And regarding the waveform quadrant, passive elements are the element which have the waveforms in the first and the third quadrant. If the waveforms present in the first and the third quadrant, then that element is said to be as a passive element. The graph of the passive element would be in first and third quadrant, then those elements are termed to be as a passive element. Examples of passive elements are R, L and C.